All right. We're live.
All right. So, anyways, that was Janet Laurel. We got to talk to Alex for about 2 seconds. Says he doesn't give interviews anymore.
He's worried about the KGB.
Anyways, we stepped out for a break, and Bob had just asked Dave and I how we had met. So,
Yeah, I mean, your recollection is a little different than mine, but I believe we were at an outdoor, those outdoor
that is the first
art
one.
events.
Yeah, that is the first one.
So that was in like Pioneer Park over there by the bridge there. If you're not familiar with this town of 800 people, there's a red bridge. It's called the Rainbow Bridge, but they had this little art festival. It was long, it was like 8 years ago, and I was looking at Tom's records that he had out there at the little festival, and flipping through, and kind of said what's up to Tom, and then I pulled out the Nas album on vinyl, like I was just holding it. Tom was like, "Oh, you like Nas?" I'm like, "Oh man." He's like, "Well, you can have that record if you want. You can have that. You can have that record."
Nice.
I'm like that's
Illmatic.
Yeah, I don't.
Illmatic.
Yeah, Illmatic. And I was like, "Well, I want the record, thanks, but damn, I don't even have any way to play it." Anyway, we started talking, and I got the record, and then a couple days later, Tom showed up with a record player that I still have, and people always ask me like, "Oh, look at that! Is that old?" I'm like, no, Tom got that shit at Target, like $100, but it looks real retro though. It's just like a piece of wood, like
They didn't make CD players back then with the records.
Yeah, this was super. It's like a super contemporary. Like
Yeah,
it's just
very.
literally.
Is it one of those ones that has a CD player in it, but you can't see it?
No. This was it's the same company, shitty record company, turntable company, Crossley. But this particular one was really rad, and it was one of the only belt-driven ones that they did. So it's cool, and the record itself is part of the art, and then it had like wireless speakers. But yeah, it's just a little. It's a perfect piece that you picture at a fondue party like 1962.
I've still got it. Cool. Yeah.
It plays records
It
really
works.
bad.
It works. The needle I have to replace a couple times, but other than that, it's good little record player. And the funniest thing is like when kids come in here and they're like, "Mom, what is that?"
Yeah. So I go and drop that off to Dave, and I was like, "Yo, you need this," and because he said he had some old jazz records that his dad played, and we were kind of thick as thieves as soon as that started. We were. LaConner's at that point half the town. The signs were for lease. It's a bunch of old cats that like didn't give a shit. They were here to capitalize on the Tulip Festival, selling bullshit, pre-manufactured Japanese garbage. Me and Dave got
That's
here.
racist.
Thank you. Me and Dave.
Sorry.
Me and Dave got here, and we kind of started turning things around. We tried to start an art walk. We tried to do events. We tried to do music things. But my favorite thing about Dave was how he could turn off his New York dude who used to like run with the St. John's basketball team and shit. So I go in and like. I think it was like daytime, and I was like drunk. There must have been like some day thing going on, or it could have just been a Wednesday. And I go into Dave's gallery, and there's these two old ladies, and he's like, this is my best Dave impression I could do, but he's like, actually, the oceanic period of when this piece came about is very interesting, and you'll notice that if you look at the markings on this piece, blah, 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 and he gets like really deep into art, and then those two chicks bounce out, and he's like, yo, you hear that new Nas record, son? He knows when to turn it on and off. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think, and especially like in LaConner, when I first arrived, I put up the black vinyl on my window with a little peek hole through the vinyl, which is something that you see in the European galleries because they're small and they don't want everybody seeing what they got in there. And, the pieces are what's special. And so if everybody walking by can look at them, then it kind of takes away from the exclusivity,
It'd be like having a big window in a movie theater.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. So I had this, black vinyl, which I still have on this gallery, but that was down the street, and a little peek hole, and a piece on a pedestal with a light and then a black curtain, so you couldn't see in the gallery. You could just see this piece in the window.
That's cool.
And people
It
were
was
like,
great, yeah.
"What is this? You know, who's this guy? He's never open, and all it is a window says New York and it's all black." And then you peek in. I'm scared to look in what he's got in there. And you look in, there's like a mask, you know, from the Congo.
They're old,
something.
cool.
See, I would have
artists,
I would have the exact opposite take on that. I'd be like, I want to go in there.
and that's what it was, Bob.
going
Bob,
on?
that's exactly it. The cool old artists flocked to him like a fucking flame. They'd been waiting for that light, and that's why you got Janet right now. Alex is one of the best cubist artists and real life, and he uses difficult mediums.
What's his last name?
Kargopoltsev.
Whoa, you say that one more time.
Kargopoltsev.
So Alex is.
Are there any vowels in that name?
There is an O, an
It
A,
has-
and an E.
It has its own style of oolot over it. It's really just like two horns and then an X. It's its own language. But I'll say this one thing about Alex, and then we should probably talk about New York. But so the first time Dave's like, we got to go over to Alex's, and he was living in some lady's house in her basement. Because he's from Siberia. He's not even from like Russia. He's from like fucking crazy town.
He's got a mug on him, dude. I would not want to have to punch that guy in the head.
Nah. He looks like if Stewie from Family Guy was a fucking henchman in a fucking if Stewie was a henchman in a Guy Ritchie film.
And 6'2" or whatever.
6'2", yeah. And so we go over to his place, but it gets better. I mean, every stereotype you could think of like a hardcore like dude who just lived in the snow, where like -2 degrees was fucking summer weather. We go over to his place, which is just like this little like hut that this lady had a fucking.
It was the back of her garage,
Back-
essentially like a little studio in the back there.
So we go to hang out at his house. He'd invite us a lot. And so it's sardines in a can. It's fucking vodka with literally no vowels in it.
Yeah, Russian standard.
Like the pi symbol was a couple of the letters, I know. And
I didn't partake in the sardines.
So then we're sitting there talking with him.
I politely declined.
And me too. And then so me and Dave are like talking to
We
him.
did smoke cigarettes and drink.
Yeah, we did. And it was a good time.
You're gonna hang out with an artist, you know, and that's what it was. I mean, we needed to get out of town. We needed to like, you know, get away from what was going on during the day or whatever it was. We're like, yeah, let's go over to the artist's house, see what's going on. You know, and it's like, let's bring a couple drinks with us, maybe some smokes.
Yeah.
hang out outside, and he showed us paintings. Is great. And then it's like, oh, you guys want some sardines?
Yeah. And then me and Dave, like, I can't remember what the skit was, but we like kind of run over a Saturday Night Live skit that one of us was reminded of. And Alex is like, what is this? And we're like, oh, it's Saturday Night Live. It's like a comedy show. It's, you know, comedy. And he's like, oh, yes. You know, we have a show like this. It's you know, it's like this one is very funny. So this guy, you know, it's like I'm you know, lieutenant, I'm in charge, and we have victory. So then he's just walking over the bodies, and he's just walking on the bodies.
It's
Me and Dave
hilarious.
were like, God damn, dude, holy shit. That was the comedy. That was Siberian comedy for you.
It sounds like Siberian comedy. Frozen bodies, no doubt.
So
Chernobyl.
Alex will put a smile on your face because when you're bitching about something, and then you gotta think about what you know.
You know, I mean, the first time when I moved in this space, and Tom was helping me put up these lights. When the space was just empty, there was nothing in here, and we're putting up these lights. I think Tom was using like a pedestal as a ladder to hang these tracks or whatever. And Alex like come in through the bathroom over here, which I share with my neighbor. That space was empty when I got here, and he come in. Oh, hello! I said, Jesus, and I just like paid rent for a gallery, and there's like a Russian guy in my bathroom. Like, where was that on the lease, right?
Yeah.
So he starts looking around. He's like, "Oh, you like African art?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I paint the cubism." I'm like, "Look, I didn't move like 3,000 miles in the middle of nowhere to meet a Russian guy who paints cubist paintings. I don't believe you." Pretty much. And then he's like, "No, come in my gallery, you'll see." So I go over there, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, woman with cello." It's like Picasso.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's what I love.
And this guy
is
knocks
crazy.
this shit out like he's bombing a wall, Bob.
Yeah, it's
it's
wild.
fucking nuts. So
First show I ever had, Alex did an entire.
this is insane.
He said to me, "I want to do, a show in your gallery." and I didn't have the Guy Anderson, so I had just walls. My ceilings are like 30 feet, and it's the old grocery store, Quonset Hut building. And he says, I will do a whole deck of cards in cubism. And I'm thinking, oh, he's going to paint little paintings. No, each one was, 30 by 40. And every card in the deck, up the walls, aces, twos, threes, jacks, queens. And we called it he wanted to call it Queen of Spades because in Russia they have a story about greed, essentially. The gambler and so we were streaming
some uplifting Russian story,
Tchaikovsky opera about it, and it was my first show in here. It was pretty wild, and I couldn't believe. I think that's when I realized, like when an artist is like, I'm gonna paint 52 paintings, and I'm like, you're right. Then he did it,
and then he did
it's
the work.
It was mind-boggling, man. It's a piece that any artist, any of my friends, if I knew anyone who knocked one of them out, I'd be like, man, this guy's a really talented artist. This is brilliant. He did it in what, 30 days?
It was about 2 months. Period. He doesn't like to say. He says the concept took years, of course.
Right.
But the actual paintings, he had about the opening day we set it.
Oil.
He showed up with like 40.
No
he showed up with like 46 done.
If I'm not correct, if I'm not mistaken, oil primarily. Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah,
this
oil.
is oil.
Yeah.
That's
we were hanging
imperative
them up.
to
They were still
story.
wet.
Yeah. This dude's. This
oil's
is
a
in
different
stencils
deal,
and Krylon.
Big oil paintings, and so
fucking wild, man.
yeah, I have yet to go down to Vegas with those and like sell them all together to a casino. It'd be rad.
How many do you have left?
I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if he painted over them. He's the kind of guy, artists will work what they got, paint over. But he still has, he'll do the queens. And then people ask him, well, I wanted an ace, or I wanted a king. So he'll do those. And they say, well, I wanted a smaller one. And he'll paint that.
He gets a lot of girls to do nudes.
Yeah,
too,
he
which
does
is kinda cool.
a lot of nudes. So,
Awesome.
But
shout out Catherine.
back to
It's
what's up,
it's
Katie?
the accent.
It's the accent and the fact that it's just beautiful fucking work. People, all jokes aside, people have commissioned him to do their wives and things like that because it's fucking
portraits are great. They're not
amazing.
Yeah, he can. Well, that's the thing about being classically trained in a place like the Soviet Union.
Right.
Cubism was not allowed.
Right.
And so that's what he loves, obviously, because
that was him really.
That's like his really like no. Sorry.
Right. That was like
un-PC comedy in our country now.
Absolutely,
Becoming a coveted art
like
form.
everything in this country now.
Anything funny. Yeah. Anything funny or entertaining.
Right.
Yeah. So
but back to the New York thing.
Oh yeah, we're talking about New York. And this New York, we're not talking about the city. We're talking about your first gallery here, right?
No. We were talking about in the city.
Okay.
With I had an idea to do this, a fair with 10 dealers. So I rented the Bohemian National Hall, which is the Ukrainian embassy.
Yeah.
Is there a connection here?
Because, well, no, it was close to Sotheby's, and they had a hall where you could rent it and have a show. And another organizer had shows there before, so I thought, this is cool. But, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I'm not a show promoter, but I tried it. I did it in Miami, too. But I decided to bring Tom with me because I needed a right-hand man, and it seemed like the right time. So Tom had never been to New York, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to get out of my element, and I'm going to rent an Airbnb, like dope apartment, like downtown.
Like
not
Manhattan?
not uptown Manhattan, downtown Manhattan. Because where I lived, Upper West Side, slower, older people, and then you got the Upper East Side, which is very uppity, where the gallery is, and then I was like, I'll go downtown, just to I thought Tom would enjoy it more.
I did.
Yeah, and so
maybe too much more.
I lost Tom for 2 days, basically. And
so I found basically the most famous of all. Like we found it on like other lists. It's the International, which is a famous dive bar. But you wouldn't know. I mean, it's still strictly a dive bar. I didn't even know, but it's not.
It opens at 8 a.m.
It opens at 8 a.m.
Oh, I love those places.
It closes at like 4.
Well, we went to the rooftop bar. That's when I found.
We were at the rooftop bar and we met this model chick, and I just remember like being so tense. Like we just flew in and like Tom, let's go to this rooftop party. This model chick's like massaging me, but she's like hurting me, she's like all of a sudden like all up on me. I'm like, what is the deal? She's like pushing like into my neck and shit. I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, let me massage your temples. I'm like, you're gonna kill me. And it's like a pressure point or some shit. I'm like, you're a really attractive model, but as far as the massaging,
She just have bare hands.
yeah,
or
well,
what?
I don't know what it
Well,
was.
she had like the most bitchy, like I can't even explain him. Just like he's the kind of guy that he might not even have a name. He was just her gay like counterpart. Like he wasn't even real, and he was just like meh.
They were already on a 2-day bender when we met them.
Yeah, they were on a 2-day bender, and like so she was the model. He was just like the guy that was like. He might do like a few like snaps of the finger, like stereotypical fucking, the
some
movie
Living
critic
Color
dude
shit
from In Living Color.
This is who Tom hung out with for 2 days. I
You disappeared with this
It
dynamic
wasn't 2
duo.
days, but hours
at least
wise,
2 days.
yeah, it was like
Well, because they came over that night.
well, they went over that night, and then we went out to like that bar, and then they
Did you get weird with them?
no, this was just going out.
They left at like 8 a.m, and I went to pay the money to the embassy at like 10 a.m. And that's the last time I saw him. and I actually had Yankees tickets, so I was like, we're gonna go to Yankees game, and I waited, never showed up.
No, I
was like,
showed up, but then I just had to go to bed. You're like, just go to fucking bed.
well, it was like 2 hours later, yeah. And then I was like, just go to bed. And then I had to deal with how to get rid of model chick and her tool or whatever. And I'm like, let's go. Like, and we went out to a sushi restaurant, and they were so obnoxiously wasted, and you could tell they hadn't showered in 3 days.
Yeah,
and
she wasn't
partying.
hot by the end, man. Like she
Nah.
went from a 9 to
But
a fucking
I managed
4, maybe.
I managed to get in a nice sushi restaurant, and pretty much got thrown out because they were arguing how Picasso sucks. and I'm like, what is going on? So I like paid a bill.
I went through a Picasso sucks phase.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And pretty much if it's not the blue era, I'm like,
I like Cubism. I like his Cubism, and I like a lot of his like line art. A lot of his stuff that wasn't actually meant for like
His
like
line art's
period
great.
pieces, his line art's
I was at the time I was really into like Renaissance master painters.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I would compare those to everything else that I saw.
Caravaggio.
Yeah, Caravaggio, Correggio, all those assholes. Rembrandt.
Yeah,
I love Rembrandt.
there you go.
all those dicks.
How about Leonardo da Vinci?
Fucking, all those jerk ass.
I like the skulls.
Yeah, dude. Or the Battle of Angahari.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what it was like for Tom. Battle of Angahari or whatever. Next, after I woke his ass up and said, time to go to work. He was up on 73rd Street, like prime rush hour. And I'm like, you stand at the end of the street and you make sure nobody comes down the street in a truck because...
Well, here, let me preface. So I go down. I fucking walk from what?
We were down in the East Village, so you probably walked about 70 blocks.
I walked 70 blocks in New York City. I saw everything, dude. Girls walking around naked, street performers, MCs that I've recognized on like the leaflets of albums. Never like the main dudes, but the dudes that are like standing behind the rappers.
Oh, he loved it until he arrived. I was like, now this is gonna suck.
Oh yeah. So then Dave, this is no fucking joke. Dave in New York fucking City, dude. And I'd been living in La Conner for fucking 5 years, and then Scottsdale before that, right? So Dave. He was like, yo, and this was smart, and I get it. He was like, so people can't come down the street right here because we're parking for a fucking art show.
They didn't tell me that the diplomats were coming. So that posed a problem because that's where my trucks were parked to deliver
so then I had to
everything. But the diplomats showed up. So then we had the street blocked because we had to get out of the way for the diplomats. And the trucks were like, where can we unload
So
this
trucks
stuff?
in New York trying to unload shit.
Yeah.
Not just our trucks. Our trucks were allowed to come down, but regular, like New York fucking guys dropping off fucking salami or cheeses. That's stereotypical. But it's like New York dudes dropping off shit. And so I'm like, oh no, you can't go down the street. It's blocked. It's like, what the fuck you mean it's blocked? Like all this shit. I was like, no, man, because of this. And holy shit, it was like, I was like, first of all, when did all you motherfuckers turn into Dice Clay? And they were fucking straight up dicks because... Like in New York, when you can't go down that one street, it's not like fucking in Washington, dude. That fucks them out like 15 more minutes. They got 20 more drops, and I'm the guy fucking telling them. The next day, 2 days before that was the worst. Like the first day after, like I had partied with these people, and so we're still up in the Airbnb, and Dave's like, dude, the car's got to move.
It was a van, a commercial van.
A commercial van, no windows. No windows.
Total
so
sketch,
it's
man.
like 7:30 a.m. fucking rush hour, Manhattan. He's like, go move the car so it doesn't get a ticket. So I'm driving in like every movie I've ever seen of like New York, 8,000 people, fuck you, like 8,000 fuck yous, horns honking in like a sequence that's almost melodic, like fucking racial epithets, like more than you could imagine. There's more on that street than I've heard in 3 years in the Connor. It was fucking wild. And I'm fucking past like my like awesome time of like cocaine where I'm just like sweating bullets and shit in New York, barely know how to parallel park, and I'm driving in Manhattan in a fucking circle trying to find a spot.
And I wanted bagels too.
Yeah, Dave wanted bagels. I parked the car. It still gets a fucking ticket.
So he moves the car and still manages to park in a no parking area, which wasn't bad because at least it was right out front. So. But while he was coming back with the bagels, I was like, he's kind of meandering at one point with the bagels, like really stoked that he had done it. And then this bum was just taking a crap, taking a shit right in front of our van. And Tom goes to like walk, and I'm like, no. He's like, oh.
Did you step in it?
Nah, the motherfucker. So I have to go back to the van. This is the worst part. I got to go back to the van. This is one of my
shoes is the worst.
This is one of my most
so
like
bad.
New York lessons of New York because the van was right here on a busy street. The other side of the van, like on the other side of the sidewalk, was like a cemetery or whatever. So this is a prime area for fucking people to go take shits, I guess. So like I
always take a shit by the
I
cemetery.
walk
Who's
over
gonna
and
know?
this fucking bum is literally. It was such bad diarrhea that he ate diarrhea for breakfast.
Oh.
And he looks at me like, yo, what the fuck you doing? I'm taking a shit on the street, motherfucker. And I'm like, and then like he said it with such conviction that I was like, shit, dude, my bad. Sorry. I was telling you, dude, sorry for shitting right where I needed to walk, where I needed to get into a vehicle. And I apologized because he said it so straight up like, yo, what are you fucking new? Taking a shit. There's not fucking people on this site. It's a cemetery. It's where you shit. So that was New York. That, and then you took me to Central Park and that fucking pigeon.
We did the show. We did that show, and it was cool. I mean, obviously, I learned that I'm not, going to do shows. It's show promoter is one thing. Being a dealer is a different thing, and trying to make everybody happy. It's hard. It's a hard job. I got to give credit to people who can do that. But we got all the stuff loaded, and I had sold this piece that was a Fijian bowl, and it has all these little armatures on it, like little legs all around this bowl, and it's probably 2.5 feet in diameter,
Wow.
And so I sold it to a guy from the Midwest, and I needed to ship it. So after we loaded everything in the van, we're getting out of there. I'm like, we need to go to my storage all the way downtown. Let's cut across Central Park so you can see Central Park, Tom. We'll take a cruise through, maybe check it out. So we get about 100 feet in, and whoop! I'm like, oh, get pulled over. There's like a bunch of cops, and Tom was holding the bowl that I had sold, and he was holding the bowl in a way so that the bowl inside the concave, inside carved out part was on his lap, and the bowl that was sticking out like almost like a pregnant-looking stomach with all these little tiny pegs all around.
It looked like what you would picture an underground, underwater mine. So it had
Okay,
all the
yeah.
So the cops thought it looked like a bomb.
But
Not right off the bat. They were like, what are you doing in the park with a commercial van? And
commercial van, no windows.
It didn't come to me that I was in a commercial van because I'd driven across Central Park a million times.
Yeah.
But in the commercial van, it didn't dawn on me. Well, they said, well, President Obama's in town. And you can't be in the park, And
This
so
commercial
there's like
van.
5 cops.
Damn.
Yeah, and they're like, what is that?
And Tom's got a bomb in
with
his
hands
fucking
on their
lap.
They
guns.
don't know
like,
what it
is
is. Yeah.
No
and a bunch of
shit.
shit from other countries. A fucking van, like.
that? Yeah.
And
So
Dude.
cop comes on one side, and there's one guy on, one officer on Tom's side, and he's telling me, what is that? I mean, that's the first thing. What is that? What are you guys doing? And what is that? And he says, I said, it's a bowl. And it's a bowl, to the other cops. It's a bowl, like a line that all the cops just waiting to blow us away, dude. Just like launch a missile into our
Gnarly.
van,
which
right?
is also like
It's
New
like-
York is fuck, man. Like,
Tom just rolls down the window. It's a bowl.
yeah, I was like,
So he says, oh, your license. And I thought, oh no, because I'd moved to Washington. And when I moved to Washington, I still had a New York, past, obviously. And they had suspended my license by accident in New York. Well, I didn't have a Washington license yet.
Oh.
I still had a New York license in Washington, which wasn't suspended here. And they had said, sorry, we had made a mistake. You paid this fine or whatever. And they wrote me a letter. The letter was in my backpack in the back of the van that's saying that, I had a suspended license in New York, but it's okay.
Okay.
And I'm in the park with a bunch of artifacts, and Obama's in town.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking, this is going to go really bad.
Yeah.
And he says, get the fuck out of this park now and don't come back.
Nice,
Don't
dude.
come back. I'm like, Tom, I guess we're taking the long way.
Nice.
So after the show, Dave meets a bunch of guys. A couple of them are some people who own banks in Minnesota. You could
Before
tell
the show.
Well,
We met before the show, and then they invited me to do the
thing
to come
after
to their
the
party.
show. So we go to this place, and we're in Tribeca.
keeps
which
going.
We're in Tribeca, probably a $40 to $60 million
Building.
4-story apartment
It's a building.
The girl who owns it,
The whole building.
her parents own the whole building.
It's her house is the building.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. And so
Across
she's
from, Beyonce
only
and
maybe
Jay.
35, and her
She's the VP of Goldman Sachs.
She hot?
which ish.
Yeah, a
let
little
me.
bit.
Yeah.
So
Friendly.
So here's the thing, though. She has like two of the super most flamboyant
I'm there to give a talk about oceanic art
Yeah.
to this group, and the group is a bunch of bankers from the Midwest who like ASMAT, and they're called they have a society, and they thought, well, since you're having your show, we'll bring our society because we're in town for our meetup, and my daughter has a building that we bought her because we can't go to the place we were meant to, so we're having it at her place. So I roll with Tom down to this party.
Let me preface. So with everywhere we're in New York, I kept like 2 outfits. I had my suit, my nice shoes. I had everything, and then I had my kind of we're going to a cool punk rock place or a hip hop place. And I had
was
like,
into
my
punk
jeans,
rock.
kind of like how I'm dressed.
Right.
So this is one of the few times where I planned unaccordingly. So that part sucks, but it benefited us because the daughter has no right being VP of that thing. I guarantee you, it's just a title because she's a rich girl who. It's like a movie that you would see in like the 80s because me and Dave go in there. She has her 2 super gay friends who are actually ice skaters,
Oh,
Olympic
shit.
figure skaters.
Yeah.
Okay? So they're hanging around. Everyone else is like these old multi
my
old money
clients.
millionaires.
Your
So
clients.
she sees Dave and I, and she's just like she saw that we went out for a cigarette. She was like, that's so taboo. So she's like, brings us out to the balcony.
One of her 12 balconies.
Yeah.
And the secret one. And then she started showing me her art, remember?
Yeah.
Her
She
art-
starts
was
to
her
Oh,
art-
you're an art dealer? Well, I made some art. And
What
I'm
was
like,
her art like?
I don't
don't
really
remember. So
I don't.
she's
It was too much
That
going on.
good, huh?
Yeah, it was too much going on.
so
She was
she's
just sort of like, hey,
she's
this
doing
is
that thing where she sees me and Dave there. She's Dave's friends with me. So it's again like an 80s movie. She's trying to
Tom's
piss
like
off
the bad
her,
boy.
straight
Nice.
up 80s I don't think so. Get my limo, fucking Frederickson. Whatever that was. And so she's that rich, but she wants to hang out with me and Dave. So in front of her dad, she starts fucking hand feeding
Well,
Dave.
basically, yeah. She said, "Have you tried this cake?" And I was trying to be cool, man, because her dad is, a client of mine, and I'd known him before. I had never met his daughter, and so he was standing, basically behind her, and turns to look right at me as she's feeding me cake.
Nice. Dude, that's awesome.
She knew it.
Did you look right at him and shoot?
I got lasers.
It could have been.
Lasers.
It should have been a fucking 80s movie, and she should have had the white bobby socks and the plaid fucking skirt, and it should have been at the
Rad.
tennis club, and Dave should have been a fucking
Like-
black guy because she was trying to piss her dad off. It was. Man, it was.
That
it
is
was-
killer.
So
Wow.
that was New York.
Yeah, but I had,
Well, how did it go?
Well, the show is okay. The show is I was trying to do something different. I thought, we needed more venues because there wasn't enough places where dealers could show. It was all private galleries by appointment. That's how New York is. All the galleries of the tribal art kind of closed when Ralph Lauren bought the block. You know, that whole block, 60 to 70s on Madison Avenue. That's where all the African art galleries were in the 60s and 70s. And so Ralph Lauren changed that. Thanks, Ralph. But he made everybody go private. And so in Paris, they have all a street full of all the galleries, you know, but it doesn't happen in New York. So if you're not part of the little clique or whatever, you can try to find other places to do it. And I thought, what a cool location. Bohemian Hall, African art.
It was beautiful. Beautiful space.
Yeah.
Beautiful space. I'll tell you this. Dave could say whatever. To make something happen here, to do even in Seattle, man, I could fucking put something together. I used to do promotions. To see what Dave did and to do it to where he never really talked about it prior, it was fucking really impressive. He did have a bartender there who I ended up in Brooklyn with, which I was in Brooklyn by myself, again, at like 7 in the morning walking by a street, and I was like, this looks like fucking...
That's right.
Yeah. And I called you, and I was like, yo, I'm in Brooklyn. You're like, dude, where? And I was like, told you where, and you're like, go back to our house. Because I was like, and then I've looked, and I've seen there was this one Rappaport fucking posted it.
Oh, no.
And it's meth with like 8 dudes, and he's doing one of his like raps. But I guess when you like do a video, you actually do the full rap, right? And they'll do like maybe a little beat behind, but you do the rap, so then the lip sync, obviously, so it matches up. And I'm like, I remembered like the fucking place, and there was, you know, like railings, or not railings, but like bars on the front of everything. And
I think she
first and
told
foremost,
me,
everyone was super cool.
I think it was Bed-Stuy or something, but it was like right at the point of gentrification. Like things were still in flux in Brooklyn. It's not like now.
I felt safe, and to be honest, at the time, I thought it was fucking really rad because I was still seeing like some of like what was what, but I never once felt like I was in danger at all. But you were still like, I think you're more just like, you can get in trouble anywhere right now in your conditions. So just fucking go home. Fair enough. I think if I would have called him from LaConner, he'd have been like, fucking go home. So yeah, New York was great, man. New York was great. That was I think that was after we had met Bob, and we had the shows at. We are in an open gallery, so you might hear people in the.
Yeah, there might be people coming in. Of course,
it is Arts Alive, big event.
So there's a opening down at. Hello.
Hello. We are. Yeah. Or we. Dave is.
Yeah.
Dave is open.
So we. Yeah, and back to where we're kind of at now, is learn to not, maybe want to have the aspiration to do a big show with 10 other dealers in New York when, I kind of like what I have going on now. And in LaConner, I've been here long enough. It's turned into a fun thing. We get like music. We have live music tonight. And we have a little, we have a little fun.
Can I ask you something? When I saw New York.
It wasn't fun. New York wasn't fun.
I think we've talked about this before. Was there a part of you that felt like you had to kind of adhere or prove yourself to like the mentors? And then,
I don't think I did, but I wanted to.
Okay, right.
I don't think they gave a shit.
And then, okay, so that goes into my next question. Was that, or what was it that made you like? Was there like just like a one day where you were like, hey, I could do my own thing. I could do whatever the fuck I want. I could have fun with it. I could care about art again, and I could love and be an expert in tribal art. But I could also like other art. I could do what I want.
I think that's just been the evolution. Is like not knowing what I was going to focus on, other than the tribal art, and then having things happen along the way that got me to the point where I could say, yeah, I could have Matt French, or I could have Lloyd.
Yeah,
Lloyd Houston.
Hey, did you ever have like any
googly-eyed art?
Just under like, I don't know, ever have like any 5'6" guys that are kind of irresponsible ever kind of nudge you in a direction and
I
say,
think
"Hey,
Tom's
you can do
fishing for
whatever
a
you want."
compliment right now.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
I'm
Tom,
totally
Tom was like, definitely don't do it, Dave. He's like, but I do want to go to New York, so.
Yeah. No.
So do it, but
all jokes
don't do it.
aside, it's been really cool watching Dave kind of progress because it was amazing what he was doing, and he was good at it. And I felt like you had to be that dedicated. To be honest, you had to be that dedicated to get as good as you were in it. So now you have that skill set; it's always there. But it's been fun to watch you kind of identify yourself and become sort of to make Cassera's Arts Premieres kind of what Cassera Arts Premieres is as its own product, its own baby. You know, it's not.
Yeah,
It's
it's a side of my father, like we were talking about earlier, but it's not.
like fuck the rules, right?
Yeah, there's no rules, and I don't have to, be a framer because my father was a framer or sell interior furniture. But I like interiors, so I add that to my scene, and I have the furniture and art, and then the little wine bar and music, and try to add a different element to just this boring art gallery,
Right.
style, because those are gone, and those days are gone. The art fairs have destroyed the gallery business, and so you have all of these galleries going out of business, especially in New York. I mean,
Do you think
so-
online sales has done a lot of that too?
online sales maybe, but it's more about the art fair, because it used to be that when you went into a gallery and you could buy a painting for a lot of money and nobody knew about it, it was just a thing. I'm gonna spend $1 million at an art gallery and nobody knows. Then the art fairs came around, and people thought, well, shit, I can drop $1 million in front of 80,000 people at Art Basel.
Oh, gotcha. You
So
can
it
show
became
off.
like, yeah, and everybody clapped. Woo! Yeah.
Right.
So that doesn't happen in an art gallery. That's art fair. That kind of put a damper on things. But there's a way to still get people interested in art galleries, and you just have to be creative.
So, Dave, plans for the future. Well, look
So-
at. Oh, I just said that like Dave. Just went, Dave, plans for the future.
So, my new space, which is kind of exciting, is going to be open in I think it's like 4 days, and that's with an architect, Dan Nelson. It's called Designs Northwest Architect Building. It's a brand new building. I don't know how long it took the architect to build this building, but it took a long time, and it's flood proof.
Flood proof.
Flood proof.
Is it
Stanwood, you
fireproof
need
too?
that. Flood proof.
Flood, not fireproof.
It's a lot of concrete,
That's
a
good.
lot of steel,
Cool.
and a lot of glass, and it's super modern. And I've been in this process since February to open this space. And the thing about working with an architect is that they're doing everything right, and that's why since February it's been taking quite a long time. The drywall is perfect. The concrete floor is perfect. Everything is perfect. It took a long ass time.
Is that
And
here in Laconner?
it's in Stanwood.
Stanwood.
And, he's been in Stanwood like 40 years and has clients all over the world, and convinced me that it doesn't matter if you're in Stanwood or not. And so now that I have these windows, people are driving by on their way to Camino Island where I live. A lot of cars looking in there, and it's just so different than this space. And I don't think it's necessarily my future. I think it's part of the future. I think I need a place to keep everything like I have here. I have stuff all the way up the walls, and I've got stuff. But that space is contemporary, modern, simple. I'm not going to fill it up with stuff. I'm going to do local artists, and then LaConner will remain for as long as I can. Just sort of my little home base where I keep my things. There's a collection of storage. I have my friends, a little bar, the music scene, and I can have fun here and then be serious with my new space. And I think that allows me to do it at my own speed.
It's kind of like.
whatever.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just got a question. So, like, my job, I'm an iron worker, so I know that I have a steady paycheck coming in. As an
Yeah.
art dealer, how do you have job security?
I mean, I think it's like anything else. If you buy and sell real estate, do you have job security? I mean, 2008 kind of showed us that wasn't true.
Well, the reason I ask is just because art, especially expensive art, is kind of a luxury.
It's a luxury, and the thing is, I think for me, I feel like I have security because I have things that are valuable to other people. It's not valuable to everybody, but I know there's somebody out there who could want it, and so I don't necessarily worry about you know job security as much as can I keep it? Can I just keep it going? And a lot of times in this business, it's if you're selling cars or whatever, and you have a bad day, somebody's going to need a car the next day. If I have a bad day, I'm like, I don't know if anybody's going to buy art, and then I really need some money. Either I got medical bills, or I got bills to pay, the lease and the rental. After year after year after year, and if I let myself think about it too much, I think I would give up. But every day is I come back and I have an idea in my mind that something could happen.
Right.
And when it happens, it's like, I can pay my bills.
Yeah. So a lot of it must be promotion. So
I think a lot of it is word of mouth. People that have extra income to buy art, have friends that have other extra income to buy art.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people walk in by accident. Sometimes their friends tell them, or sometimes they're going to the restaurant next door. But it really only takes that one person versus a business in La Conner which thrives off selling merchandise all day long.
You need to sell 100 of these consistently all day, every day.
Yeah. If you're selling,
you cannot sell something for 2 weeks, but then you could sell 25,000 a piece.
Or if you're selling crafts, or if you're selling the shirts like next door, or coffee, or a restaurant, then they have a day where they're like, okay, this is how our goal for the day. We need to make this much money in this business, and I don't have that here. It's like somebody calls me, hey, I wanted to come in and see this piece. Well, I got to put all my effort into selling it because I might not have another chance for a while.
Right.
And so the negotiation and where I am in a certain time frame, if it's close to Christmas, you really like that piece, we would make a deal. I got kids to buy presents for,
Yeah,
that's kind of how it goes.
A lot of selling expensive art pieces, is there psychology involved? Like a game?
Well, there's a little bit
game?
of a game, but like the usually it's the I don't know. I mean, I think certain dealers and I probably played games before, but I think if a collector has the money and the dealer knows it, you can only play so many games because you want that money.
Sure.
You want to make the sale like anything else, and so you don't want to play too much. But there's plenty of dealers out there who don't give a shit either. So they have plenty of extra cash, but for me there's a certain medium with it. I want to be able to take care of my kids. I want to be able to open the doors, turn on the lights, pay for whatever it takes to make it happen, and at the end of the day, somebody says, you know what, I love this piece. It makes me feel good, and I may not get rich off ever off selling a shredded Banksy.
Right.
But then again, that's not my goal.
Yeah.
My goal is not to be in the top of the pyramid of the art game.
Right. You do that, then you just expand on what you're already doing.
Well, there's
You're
no real
branded who
money
you are. Yeah.
in the top pyramid of the art game. It's all fake money.
Absolutely.
It's all just a game of paper.
That's everything. That's everything.
Oh, I paid you $7 million. Did you? Did I ever see that $7 million?
Yeah.
But if I'm down at sort of middle of a pyramid where there's actually money, changing hands.
Well, how do you mean like when you were talking about the 7 million
When
thing?
when you buy a piece from someone and they say, you're signing a piece of paper saying you're going to give me $7 million or $70 million. There are many times when that transaction didn't end up with you having money in your hands. Either it's a promise or it's bullshit. It's a way to uh,
It's like a power trip almost, right? Like the people that are saying, "I'm going to give you $7 million for this piece," and then like they probably know that they're not going to give it to you if they don't give it to you, right? I mean, it's probably pretty rare that.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I just feel like I don't want to be in the pretend game with Sotheby's and with the guys that are, it's not my game. My game is to sell art that's tangible, that people like, to give them an experience, to get paid with actual money that I can actually use to buy things for my family and have a living.
Yeah.
In terms of the monkey business, it's it's not real. It's not real. The whole Banksy thing, I mean, everybody knows that wasn't real. There's no shredder in that thing. I mean, look at the setup, the pictures they took.
Or I mean,
conspiracies or whatever.
in theory, there could be the shredder there, but it was fucking obviously like either planned because theoretically it's supposed to have sat for 7 years.
Right.
So then it's either remote control, so it still has to have a battery that maintained, has to have some company that doesn't make any type of shredded like that. So you had to have somebody establish that to shred it, to take canvas through on top of it, so it's not a traditional shredder.
Right. I mean, that's not the.
It's brilliant. It was fun.
It
was fun.
You have guys that have mega yachts in the south of France that buy paintings from Swiss dealers or whatever, and then they say, "Okay, I paid you $40 million for this painting, and since you don't want to pay tax, we'll put it in a storage in
Right.
Taipei." Oh, well, I own the storage, so it's no problem. So then, do you even really have the art? I mean, how does that make someone happy? To pay all this money that doesn't really exist. I mean, is the bank going to give you your $40 million when you go in there? They're going to be like, no,
Yeah.
we're not going to give you that money. We got that money in cyber.
So you're paying for the exchange almost for the
Yeah.
exchange for it to happen.
And it's sort of a holding
It's a different
thing.
kind of. But
It's a different thing. But then they turn around and go, oh well, it was all a sham, and I got overcharged by this much money. And this actually happened. The guy said he got overcharged by $1 billion. I don't want to know what he paid if he got overcharged by $1 billion. And then and then he says, well, I'm going to fire sale everything.
What does that mean?
Like, I'm going to sell everything off that I bought that I was overcharged for $1 billion. And I'm going to sell it for a quarter of what I paid. And everybody goes, why would he do that? Well, because he never paid the money in the first place, and now it's going into the auction house, and now it's real money.
Now he's going to make hard cash with it.
Yeah. And so
Interesting.
that game for me is it's not something that's fulfilling.
say a whiskey from Japan that no one else